Hello and welcome to Sticky from the Inside, the employee engagement podcast that looks at how to build stickier, competition-smashing, consistently successful organisations from the inside out. I'm your host, Andy Gorham, and I'm on a mission to help more businesses turn the lights on behind the eyes of their employees, light the fires within them, and create tons more success for everyone. This podcast is for all those who believe that's something worth going after and would like a little help and guidance in achieving that. Each episode, we dive into the topics that can help create what I call stickier businesses. The sort of businesses where people thrive and love to work, and where more customers stay with you and recommend you to others because they love what you do and why you do it. So, if you want to take the tricky out of being sticky, listen on. Okay then, have you ever sat in a meeting, your mind in a fog, with a vision explained like a technical blog, with bullets marching all stiff and all flat, and you've thought to yourself, what the heck was all that? You nod and you smile, pretend that you know, but deep down inside, you're thinking, oh no. Now, why have I gone all Dr. Seuss on you at the start of today's show? Well, let's face it, a lot of internal communications inside businesses just doesn't cut through today. It gets drowned out in jargon. It gets forgotten within a sea of slides, lost in a tsunami of other messages, or worse still, ignored completely. But what if we took a different approach, one rooted in rhythm, metaphor, connection, and humanity? My guest today is the wonderful Kelly Meerbott. She's a TEDx speaker, trauma-informed leadership coach, and author of Meerbott's Fables, which is a refreshingly human set of modern business stories inspired by the animal kingdom and, behind the scenes, none other than Dr. Seuss himself. Now, in this episode, we're going to be talking about why stories, not so much strategies, might be the thing that finally helps employees understand where we're going, what we stand for, why that matters, and what we're going to do about it. They may also be the way to get across the real meaning of what we're talking about without ramming it down people's throats. We'll explore why Kelly's stories are striking such a chord right now, how leaders can use their stories to build trust and psychological safety, and then what we can all learn from Dr. Seuss's ability to say hard things in simple, unforgettable ways. So, if you want to lead with more heart, more clarity, and better understanding, stick around, because I reckon we've got a story to tell you. Kelly, welcome to the show.
Thank you. What a great intro, and I love the Dr. Seuss nod. And of course, I'm going to have to plug my book a little bit.
Get it in there.
Yeah, so, okay. You want to hit me with the questions, Andy?
Not so fast, Kel. Straight in with the questions. We're going to chat. We're going to explore this stuff. I do want to get into the book, actually, and what sparked all that sort of stuff. But do me a favor. I gave you a tiny little intro there about you. Introduce yourself to the audience. Let them know who you are and what you're working on today.
Yeah. So I'm Kelly Meerbott. I'm a professional certified coach through the International Coaching Federation, but I really like to say I'm a catalyst for change who walks alongside anybody navigating a pivotal change in their lives, their careers, their businesses, and aren't afraid to get really real. Stripped bare and facing everything. I don't come to change anybody. I'm there really to amplify what's magnificent about them and hold up a mirror, so we can really look at ourselves as leaders and improve upon who we are as humans to make ourselves better leaders, whatever that looks like in your mind.
Well, and you're also a hugely positive person. I confess, I have spoken to Kelly before. We did an episode of Engage for Success Radio quite a while ago now, and this is where I first heard about the Fables, right? Because we were talking about how to get communications landing with people in organizations, and you introduced this whole thing about the fables. So we will dig into this, but give everybody a flavor about what am I talking about? What is this fable thing? What is the book? Where's the inspiration for what it is?
So honestly, it started as an act of rebellion
Hmm?
because I was so fed up with everybody screaming at each other, like looking at these interviews or Instagram, any social media where somebody would ask a question who had a polar opposite view of the person asking the question. And then the person answering would like talk over them or shout or, people shouting each other down. It felt like verbal, like flagellation over the head. You know what I mean? Until you either concede or it shuts down the communication. So I had read a bunch of business fables, whether it was Patrick Lencioni, who does some great work, or
Love him.
Ken Blanchard. Um, and for me, those fables were so visual. And then I grew up, of course, with Aesop's fables, who, I mean, I don't even know what version is out now in terms of, what version of print it's in. But basically, I wanted people to understand high level concepts in a very digestible form.
Hmm.
And the other thing is when I was working with like high ranking officers in the military, especially during the pandemic, my Cavalier King Charles Spaniel Tess, who is on the cover, that's her right there. Um, I would have these stoic leaders who I couldn't get to their soft underbelly, which is really where the rubber meets the road in leadership. You have to drop the armor, drop the performativeness and really connect with that. And she would come on camera and I would see these really like tough guys go, "Oh my God, who is that? Holy cow, she's so cute. Can I see her?" And it's like, "Oh, there you are." So I thought to myself, okay, humans often relate to animals better than they do other humans.
Hmm.
Um, the other thing is watching our animals react to our friends or different people, however they manifested, whether it was somebody who, occupied a wheelchair or, a gentleman that walked in the bar with long dreads and black sunglasses who may have looked strange to humans. They're going right up to him and, just loving on him because they don't see race, they don't see gender, they don't see religion, they don't see politics, they just see the human. So, how could I leverage those things to create 10 short stories to give people lessons on burnout, paternity leave, um, diversity in the boardroom, following your own path, not conforming to corporate jargon or corporate culture, all of those things, and that's really how Meerbott's Fables was born. I mean,
And
it's like that.
I think it's also interesting just to sort of like just dig into what you were doing. You just casually mentioned, oh yeah, just working with high-ranking military officials. You were dealing with some pretty tough situations with some of these guys, like serious burnout, fatigue, mental anguish going on with some of the things that they were dealing with, right? And I think it's so interesting that you mention about Tess in that there's something about an animal that will spark some kind of emotional response, good or bad, but in most of us. And I think this is the thing about stories, and particularly the fables that we'll get on to talk about, is that the very, very best stories connect to some kind of emotional reaction, or they create that kind of memory, right? And that's what we're looking at here. That's why this stuff can be really powerful.
And you hit on something really important that a publisher said to me one time. He
Mm,
said, "No tears for the writer, no tears for the reader." Meaning, if you're not pouring your heart onto the page, the reader is not going to feel that. Right. And I will tell you, so the one called The Prestigious Stray, which the
mm,
first part true. It's about our stray cat, Pablo Escobar. Yes, I did name him after the deadly
God,
Colombian
Kelly.
drug. I mean, like, and I will tell you, when I was on Facebook, there was a little bit of a war in my feed about why would you name him after that? Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, because it's funny.
Hmm.
I mean, really, that's it. It's because it was funny.
There's something wonderful about the image of you stepping out to your porch at night, shouting out Pablo Escobar to come back in the house. I mean, that has to have caused some interesting neighborhood conversations.
Oh my gosh, especially when he gets out. I was looking for him one day and I'm running around with my phone and I'm like, this is our cat. His name is Pablo Escobar. And people would be like, what?
All right, Kelly.
Uh,
Yeah.
you know? And you would think he would kill mice. Mm-mm. Nope, just plays with them. Just, it's a whole thing. But yeah, I mean, the story about him, the first part of the story was true, where he came to us. The second part of the story, which is about him creating a mouse control company where the rest see, and my friends were all like, when they read it, they go, "We know you were at the keyboard, like hee hee hee," and that's exactly what it was. And and the process, I think, really is interesting. So I would think about an animal,
Mhm.
whether it was our cat or Midas the mouse. I mean, I studied mice, so I would go onto Nat Geo Kids and I would look at little known facts about the animal. Now, why would I go to Nat Geo Kids and not to National Geographic?
Mm.
Because the average American reads at between a fifth and seventh grade reading level.
Okay.
So I wanted it to be inclusive of anybody, no matter what their reading level was. And the idea was to follow the Dr. Seuss model, right? So going back to Dr. Seuss, I wrote my thesis on him. And I
Uh,
did. I wrote it.
what a
So
topic. What a
I
topic.
know, right? It was about the social implications of Dr. Seuss's writing,
Well, of
right?
course it was. I mean,
Of
that sounds
course
like the most natural title for that.
Of course, right? But I got to read all of his books, and the interesting thing was, first of all, he was in advertising
Mm.
first, right? So he had that marketing kind of mindset, which is brilliant. But when he wrote the books, he thought to himself, okay, I want to reach kids, but who's reading the books to the kids?
Mm.
Parents. So he's hitting both of those demographics. I wanted to do the same thing. Well, ironically, is if you read his books, typically it's after a major event. So, like Horton Hears the Who is
Yeah.
all about Hiroshima. He visited Hiroshima, and like that's what it's based on. Um, the Lorax, when we started killing the rainforest, that's where that came out of. The Butter Battle book is about the arms race between the United States and Russia. I mean, it's
Wow.
so
I had no
yeah,
idea about that. Yeah.
yeah. He's teaching all of these major concepts, but in a way that is not only fun, it's got this beautiful rhythm and cadence. I mean,
Mm.
Dr. Seuss, man, he love that guy, obviously. And, again, it's teaching valuable lessons to parents and their children.
It's that accessible thing, though, isn't it? And I think this is the interesting thing. This is why I wanted to get you on the show, because when we talked last time out, I think I asked you the sort of, I don't know, impertinent, rude questions like, how on earth is this going down with business people inside companies are going, oh, yeah, a book about fables, do me a favor. But it's having some real impact, right? Because I think because of the accessibility, the inclusivity of it.
Yeah. And the reaction to it has been surprising to me. It's what I hoped, but people will pick up that book and go, "This is genius. I've never seen anything like that." And of course, I'm like, genius, you sure? I'm not great with accepting compliments. It's something I'm working on, but
Good.
I have this big healthcare system that I'm working with right now. And the person that hired me bought 15 copies of the Fables to give away to people, because she loved it so much. And then I think I told you the story on the last podcast about the gentleman who was on the exact opposite end of the spectrum for me politically and the
Mm-hmm,
way
mm-hmm.
he thinks. And he asked for a signed copy of the book. And I honestly, Andy, was a little nervous because how are we going to accept this? And he came back, and I'm laughing because I think it's such a funny story. He was like, "This book was great. I read it 5 times. I can't believe the way you put it. You changed the way I think. And by the way, you're really smart."
That's nice, isn't it?
Thank you.
Yeah. I think this
But
is what's really interesting, though, Kel, is that the way you can tell a story, and I don't just mean you, but the way that we tell stories and we get information across gives somebody a chance to reflect, reassess, and maybe change some things for the positive. I mean, this is why I find this really interesting. Like recently, I've been in quite a few rooms with various companies, people being put through a kind of leadership development type course, which I'm not trying to make it feel like that. I'm trying to make it feel human and real. As always with these things, when you're forced to go on a program, there's the bell curve in the room of people who are bang up for it, right? And the vast majority sitting in the middle going, not so sure about this. Go on then, teach me something. And they bring, I guess not intentionally, but quite a negative energy. But dropping a load of different ways to get some of this stuff across, particularly around the big generational shifts we're seeing at the moment within business, with boomers going and the skill gap being left behind and the people that being left behind, and people being frustrated by different attitudes from the younger generations. I shared a slide that had wonderful piece of news clippings from like 1894 to like 2018 from around the globe, with people talking about the previous generations through that time. They just don't know what work is. They don't like to work. They haven't got a clue what hard work. We've been talking about this sort of stuff for years. And by bringing a bit of fun and humor to it, and then kind of parodying some of the generational stuff, you can begin to see people melt, consider, change their views, right? Which is why I think it's so fascinating about the effect that thinking about serious cultural business issues like you are, like DEI and all those sorts of good things, which I know is an interesting topic in the States at the moment. But but I mean,
don't
we
get
can
me
go there. We
started.
can. That's not like the touch paper there for you, Kelly. I'm not going to do that to you today. But do you think that kind of reframing and humor and maybe levity and even simplicity, because I think that's the joy of someone like Dr. Seuss, the simplicity of it. Do you think those are kind of undervalued, underutilized tools in a leadership kit bag today? Do you think we just got wrapped up in this have to be serious, have to be credible from the serious side of life rather than the life side of life?
Yes, I agree. Yes. And I will tell you, in my coaching with clients, the first phase is storytelling.
Mm,
Why? Because it bonds us. It gives me an overview of what happened in your life to create the essence that's sitting in front of me. It tells me what inspires them, because you cannot motivate anybody. You can only inspire them. So I'm going to weave that into my coaching. I want to know what triggered you, because I'm not here to trigger you. But if I notice behaviors coming up that are coming out of that trigger, then I can call them out and you can make a different choice. But
hmm
also, storytelling penetrates the right hemisphere of the brain. Right hemisphere of the brain, there's no resistance. So if you're in sales and you tell a story, there is no sales resistance here. So you're closer to the close, right? But to your point, in Gen Z, Gen Alpha, millennials, they are not these things are not a nice to have, like the human essence of it, the humanity.
hmm
It is a demand.
mm
It is a demand. And the great thing about storytelling is no matter how you process, whether you're ADHD, neurodivergent, on the autism spectrum, it will penetrate their brain and they'll be able to process it. And it's just, I mean, I start all of the fables with once upon a time because it
Mm.
primes your brain for that. Oh, here. I mean, I even as I was saying it, I could feel my central nervous system go, oh, it's time for a story.
And
Okay.
this comes back to that emotional exchange again. As kids, back of the brain, emotional reaction to stuff. This is why Once Upon a Time evokes such a strong feeling in many, many, many people.
Right.
I think I watched, God knows, years ago, some YouTube video by some top speaker asking, what's the first words you should use to engage an audience in a presentation, and how many people just get it completely wrong. And his words were "Once upon a time," because it just goes, hey, well, this is okay. I'm drawn in now. This is something different. Something as simple as that changes the paradigm in what you expect.
Yeah,
Helps you see
absolutely.
yourself in that story, right? Position yourself in that story, which is when you think about the message you're trying to get across here, you're using the metaphor of animals and all that kind of stuff to help people see themselves from an emotional perspective in key situations, right?
Yeah. And I love that you said you see yourself in them
Mm,
because I've had people, and it's everybody from, I don't know, students who, eighth grade students, I didn't realize it was going to resonate with them, but they loved it. But I've had people email me and say, I'm the turtle, or I'm the cheetah, or I'm the unicorn. And all of these, each of the fables is a composite of real human experiences I've had. Like the
mm,
unicorn one is based on one of my friends who worked in a very, very big pharma company. She is Afro Latina. She is gorgeous, genius, love her, right? She would get these evaluations or reviews, and they would say, you're great, you're hitting all your numbers, blah, 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 blah. But you need to straighten your hair because it's unruly and distracting.
good God.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm,
And so I said to her, can I tell a fable about it? And the fable is a unicorn that is born with a black tourmaline horn, and she has a curly black mane and tail, when all the other unicorns have gold horns and a white straight mane and tail. And the corporate stall space made her paint her horn, her tourmaline horn, gold and straighten her mane and tail. And what ended up happening was the horn started to chip off. She became angry. She became frustrated and she ended up quitting and starting her own company. And that's true. All of this is true, even though it's in fable form, um, to come into corporations to help belonging. We'll call it belonging, right? And inclusion. And that's what she does now. And it's inspiring. And I wanted to put that and memorialize that because it's an important story. I mean,
mm.
why does it matter what her hair looks like if she's doing the job? It doesn't matter. But how insulting is that to her, her mental real estate and all the good that she was bringing to the company? And how do I know that? Everything else in the review was top marks.
Mm.
So, yeah, it's storytelling is way underutilized,
I
I
think that's
think.
the thing I wanted to sort of ask you in your extensive work in different organizations. I don't want to make the sweeping statement that all organizations are bad at storytelling, because that's rubbish. That's stupid. That's not
Mhm.
true either. But what do you see? Do you see real intent behind this communication method, storytelling? Do you see people kind of falling upon it, or do you just sort of people's just saying it's got no place here? You must see a full range of things in your work. What stands out for you as to why perhaps more organizations than we would perhaps think about just don't get this, or are struggling to use that form?
Fear and conditioning,
Mm,
right? So it's uncomfortable. Um, how could a fable teach a lesson?
mm,
Moral, every single one has a moral. Um, but the other piece, the conditioning, like And I'll speak to what you said. You went in, you were facilitating something that the company mandated or the company forced to check a box because we have to do a certain number of hours of professional development, check, 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 right? But they create these curriculums where they're not talking to their people, right? I mean, that's the first thing I always say is when a company asks me how to engage your employees, I'm like, have you talked to them?
Mm,
Have you asked them?
mm.
Because they'll come up with these silly programs, Andy, and where they'll give like $5 coffee cards. And really what these people want is a paid time off.
Yeah, I think the things I sort of see in the room, and I'm very lucky, I associate with a few companies that give me the opportunity to go into rooms and do things with people. And by far and away, the thing that I have seen the most is people preconditioned to what a facilitation or a training session is going to be. It's going to be a succession of slides with somebody up front whacking through a load of models and then having a break and then whacking through a whole bunch more models. What they're
Mm,
not normally used to is people stood up in front of them telling real life stories about how these things have failed for them, worked for them, caused them anguish, made them look stupid, lessons that they've learned in life. And I would say 90%, I think, of the change learning and the behavior change that happens from two pieces. Either a story I tell, and most of them are failure stories. That's the reality of it, but that's where I think you get your best learning. And the other half is when they all start to exchange their own stories on the table. You know, the model is a stimulus. It's the conversations. It's the stories provoke a conversation. And I think that's just the important thing here, right?
I agree 100%. And as I was thinking and listening to you, I was thinking about how people resonate more with our failures than they do with our successes. I mean, I just put up a post actually 2 weeks ago on LinkedIn, 2 weeks ago today.
Hmm.
And the headline is every morning before work, I'd vomit. There
I saw
are,
the post. I saw the post.
yeah, there are over like almost 60,000 impressions. I mean, my DMs have been lighting up. There's, I think, 450 people, 50 reshares. And the comments in the post are, I've been there. I escaped corporate. Um, I resonate with this. I had that moment, blah, blah, blah. And that's what we want. We really want to engage thoughtful and intentional conversation because that art of civil discourse has been gone,
Mm.
right? It's like we started, people are shouting over each other. We're not listening. We're not challenging. We're not thinking critically. People talk about doing research, but the research they're doing is the headlines from Facebook, which
Yeah.
frankly is a cesspool. So check our sources here and go to credible sources that really
But
educate us.
that's I think that's so hard today because I know I'm use the generic term, the lazy term, Kelly. You know me, the algorithm. But I think
Right.
the algorithm just kind of like feeds you. I have a theory: it feeds you what you love to get a reaction, and feeds you what you hate to get a reaction. Which is why we've lost the things you're talking about: the grey in the middle,
Yeah.
the ability to have a disagreement without falling out, have a difference of opinion. Now you're either with me or you're against me. There was a shocking stat on the news the other day. I won't remember the numbers specifically, but I suspect it's the same over your side of the world, Kelly. They were talking about social pressure and young kids on social media at night spending an hour or two literally responding to messages, not furthering the conversation, just being seen to respond to messages for like an hour or two at night so that they don't have the fallout the next day of being in the "you're not with me," or actually for not being in the "you're not with me" camp. I mean,
Mhm.
that's mad. I mean, communication has polarized, I think.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, it's been politicized too, which is, um, and things like these topics are not, it's not a binary, right?
Mm,
Like I remember I was reading one of Brene Brown's books, which if
mhm.
you don't know her, she's
I
amazing.
love Brené Brown.
Right. She's a shame and vulnerability researcher, but she's also from Texas. So she's a gun-toting Texan,
Yeah.
right? And this woman came up to her um at a convention and was like, "Okay, are you for a responsible gun ownership or not?" And she was like, "Well, first of all, this is not the place to have a discussion but about this, but it's also not black or white. There are
Mm,
shades of gray, and I really believe people have forgotten that." And
mm,
as far as the young people go, what you have to remember as a human is these algorithms and these platforms, especially TikTok, Instagram, were programmed by the same engineers that programmed slot machines in Las Vegas,
addiction, motion. Yeah.
right? It's
Swipe up,
addictive.
swipe right. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so sad. I mean, there was, and I can't remember the name of the documentary, but they were talking about tween girls. So tween girls, if that's not a term you use on your side of the world, it's 11. It's the between. Think
Yeah,
about
yeah,
it, right?
yeah.
10,
Tweenagers. We call them
right?
tweenagers.
Teenagers. Yeah, exactly. That there was a mass rush of those young women to go to the plastic surgeon to make their faces look like the filters. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my God, these poor babies. They can't even enjoy their formative years in a way where they can play and have fun and make mistakes and develop without, oh, how many hearts do I have? How many likes do I have? And it's also ruining critical thinking. It really is. It's sad, and it's a sad state of our society, but I also know that everything's a pendulum swing. Like you were talking about the articles from the 1800s. This is
Mm,
not a new story.
no.
So we're just waiting to find the middle, and hopefully it'll come soon.
Yeah, no surprise to me, Kelly. We start talking about stuff and it zing zongs all over the place.
It's like
But
talking to a pinball machine, right?
it's fun. But that's great. That's what conversations do,
I
love,
love
isn't it?
it.
That's what they do.
Yeah,
I think my what was my even my point here? I think my point was the way that you're telling these stories, or the way that businesses can maybe augment how they get communication and get points across. The way you're trying to tell these stories is it's open for a little bit of interpretation, which means it's open for discussion. What
that's
did you
it.
take from that? What's your interpretation of that? And that's, I think, the thing that's sort of missing or conflated sometimes in business communications. There's clearly misinterpretation when things aren't communicated properly, right? But that doesn't necessarily cause communication and discourse. It just causes problems. Whereas I think if you tell a story like you're doing, or people take on a different sort of approach to communication, it can open up the channels for discussion, right? And that can breed better understanding, better trust, disagreements, but positively, right?
Exactly. And we don't have to walk away from a conversation that gets heated and hate each other and never talk again. I mean, that's unfortunate. I mean, that's an unfortunate collateral damage of what is going on in the US right now,
Mhm.
right? Families are broken up because one believes one side and the other believes another side. And actually, volume two, you'll love this. So my last name is Meerbott, right? And so my husband said to me, "Would you write a fable about meerkats?" And I said,
It's A natural choice. Come on.
Absolutely. So went on Nat Geo Kids and I said, give me some little known facts about meerkats. So here are some fun ones, right? They're called mobs or gangs. That's the
Yes.
group.
Yes.
One of the few animals that teach their young. They're also immune to certain venoms. So one of the things that they teach their young is how to capture a scorpion, which my husband's a Scorpio. So there you go, right? The way
I
they
get you.
teach their young is to hold down the scorpion, they pull out its stinger and crack its back and eat the meat, right?
Hang on. Are we still talking about your relationship with your husband at this point?
No. No, but I mean, it is kind of an indirect love letter to him because my best friend, I've been with him 20 years. There's nobody who knows me better. But so what I came up with is that there were these opposing gangs, red and blue,
Uh-huh.
meerkats, who would fight against each other. But they heard about an army of scorpions that was coming to kill them by throwing venom in the form of insults at them. So these two warring gangs had to come together to fight the army of scorpions. And that's again red and blue, right? We could go Bloods and Crips, Republicans, Democrats, I don't care. It's just about pulling together as two disparate groups that are arguing
Mm.
to fight something that is, going to be damaging to anybody.
Mm.
And that came out of that. It came out of watching what's going on in our country, watching what's going on in your country,
Yeah.
and the outcome that I'm hoping will happen is discourse. I want to start conversations or shift somebody's way of thinking, give them, expand their mental horizon a little bit to consider other things.
Mhm.
Like there's a fable about clownfish. It's the last fable in the first volume. And it came out of the fact that I kept hearing people say transgender does not occur in nature. Well, yes, it does. All clownfish are born male. And then when they organize into a school, the dominant male stays male and the next dominant male turns female so they can procreate and create more clownfish. So what I simply did was, really give it fins, forepaws, feathers, fur, so that people could understand these concepts and that there are different facets to life in humans that are acceptable.
Mm.
And in my mind, Andy, if you're living and existing in peace in a way that doesn't impact mine and you're not forcing your beliefs, go with God, my friend, because
Mm.
it's just everybody just wants to live in peace and exist in a way that honors them, no matter how they manifest in life. And I think these disparate groups aren't seeing that. They're not seeing that they all want the same thing.
Yeah, it's tough times. Tough times at the moment. Lots of polarity. Too much polarity in these things, and I'm not clever enough to know lots of information about it all or have solutions for these things. It just feels more combative than perhaps it's been for a good while. But I want to stay in the. I'm with you, so I want to stay in the positive, right? So we know in your first volume you've talked about topics like psychological safety, ED&I, burnout, stress, all these kind of things. You've just dropped in there that there's another volume. So what sort of topics are you attacking in a very polite, rhythmical way with prose in volume 2? What you having a go at?
Yeah. And again, just to kind of loop back to what you were saying, I think part of what we're seeing right now is violent rhetoric and the fables is the antidote. It's gentle.
Yes.
So the other topics, I'm dealing with sexism in the workplace, and that's all about mockingbirds. So mockingbirds basically mock other birds by repeating what they say, right? So I've been in corporate boardrooms where I've said something and the idea has been shunned. And then, I don't know, 3 people later, a white male counterpart will say exactly the same thing. And all of a sudden it's trot out the Nobel Peace Prize. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
it's a much better idea coming from them, Kelly. You just
Right. Right.
you're too much of a silly little bobblehead, really, for that sort of
Right.
stuff.
Exactly. Or you're too much, or you're too aggressive, too abrasive, blah, 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 blah. The other one, and I actually weaved a Beyonce lyric into this one, is all about bees, because bees are a matriarchal society, and it is about how we need to lift each other up as women, because the old trope is women against women, and it's a function of the patriarchy. It's, if you and I are against each other, or we're pitted against each other, we're distracted from what's going on behind the scenes, right? So it's all about bees and how the queen bee marigold lifts everybody else up. And then the other one I love is, it's about a dazzle of zebra. And when I found out they were called a dazzle, I was like,
Is
this
that the
stuff,
collective noun for zebras? Is it dazzle?
yeah, it's a dazzle. And I'm like,
I would use herd. I mean, dazzle's so much better.
yeah, well, here's something else that I didn't know about zebra, but every zebra's stripes is different. It's like a fingerprint, right? So that fable is about a zebra that gets made fun of because she has some weird stripes, right? And the dazzle makes fun of her. Her name is Zephyr. Well, what happens is a major windstorm in the Sahara. The dazzle can't find its way out, and they realize that Zephyr's stripes are actually an escape route, and they follow the escape route and survive this huge sandstorm.
It's like
So,
Prison Break all over again. Beautiful. I love that. That's
right?
fantastic. Prison
But
Break in the animal world.
right? That's exactly it. And it's so all of these things, I mean, a lot of times I am sitting at my desk like, hee, 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 that's really funny. Like when I found out about zebra being a dazzle, I was like, okay, here we go.
Oh, listen, maybe no laughs for the writer, no laughs for the reader. A similar sort of thing, So we come back to that thing. Kelly, every conversation I have with you starts in one direction and finishes in lots of others, right? Which I which I absolutely love. I want us to try and, between us both, pull it back for some summary
Okay,
on today's conversation, if we can even do that, right?
sure,
Um,
absolutely.
because our time has run away with us, and so
Uh,
I would like to come to this part of the show I call sticky notes, Kelly. Right? So
yeah.
I would like you to think about your storytelling, and if you were giving advice to people trying to up their storytelling game or try a different method to get their messages across, what would your three little sticky notes of advice be?
First one, which Kelly practices, but is not always great at. Say less, mean more. And what I mean by that is skip the jargon, skip the corporate buzzwords, speak like a human. People don't need more words. They need clarity. They need courage and connection.
Mm-mm.
The second one is tell the story only you can tell. Tell your story, right? Because somebody can resonate with that. I mean, vulnerability is a superpower. Share the messy, share the real stuff, share the failures, not just the polished wins, right? But the magic lives in the messy, sticky middle.
Mm-mm.
And then the last sticky note is, if they are not moved, they will not move. So let me say that again. If they're not moved, they will not be moved. No tears for the writer, no tears for the reader. Your job isn't to inform, it's to inspire, right? And words don't teach. So if your message doesn't touch people emotionally, it won't create the behavior shift that you want. Like that gentleman I told you that
Mm-hmm.
he and
Mm-hmm.
I were on the other end of the spectrum. It changed the way he thinks.
I love it. Three super duper sticky notes that I will whack up on the Instagram channel, so they'll be there for posterity. Kelly, as always, super to speak to you. Crazy and off the wall at times, but that is something I cherish.
Oh yeah, I love you. Thanks for letting me be my like nutty self on your podcast.
It's beautiful stuff, mate. Now, before I let you go, Kelly, where can people track you down, find you, find the book? Tell us.
So kellymeerbott.com. It's KELLYMEERBOTT.com. That's everything. You can contact me. All of my channels are there: LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram. I don't think X. That's all on there. And then there's a contact form. I would love to hear from you. And I always gift people a complimentary leadership coaching session because it hones my craft. It creates connection. If you become a client, yay. Otherwise, we walk away better acquainted with each other and maybe friends.
Love it. I mean, who wouldn't want you as a friend, Kelly?
Same, ditto.
Listen, it's been wonderful to have you on. Thank you so much for giving me your time and your energy and your passion for this topic. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to chatting to you again soon.
Thank you, Andy. And thank you to your listeners. And you have my heart, mate. I love you.
You take care, lovely.
All right. You too.
Okay, everyone. That was the fabulous Kelly Meerbott. And if you'd like to find out more about any of the things we've talked about today or where to find Kelly, please check out the show notes. So, that concludes today's episode. I hope you've enjoyed it, found it interesting, and heard something maybe that will help you become a stickier, more successful business from the inside going forwards. If you have, please like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps. I'm Andy Gorham, and you've been listening to the Sticky from the Inside podcast. Until next time, thanks for listening.